Hi, this is Tamara from mooglyblog.com, and in this video I'm going to be demonstrating how to make the Care Package Throw, which is a free pattern you'll find on mooglyblog.com. Please go to the link in the description where you'll find the written pattern as well as all the supplies you need. Here you can see the finished blanket. I chose to use 6 colors, but of course you can use however many colors you like. To make this pattern, we need Red Heart with Love in, as I said, as many colors as you'd like. You'll also need a P or Q hook, basically a 15mm hook. Sometimes this gets different numbers added to it. This one is by Clover. You'll need a pair of scissors and something to measure with. You can use either a standard tape measure or something that I find really handy is actually Scotch makes a measuring tape, which I will link out at the link in the description as well. And you'll see that we use this when we make our built-in fringe for this blanket, one of the things that makes it very fast to make, and I just find this is a little bit easier to use than a regular tape measure for this pattern. So let's go ahead and take a look here at the finished blanket right here on our small table. It's going to be hard to fold the whole thing out, but hopefully you can get an idea here. Okay, we do our video filming on just a little small table here, so it's kind of hard to get a whole blanket, but I'm going to try and walk you through it nonetheless. Basically, the key to this blanket, the Care Package Throw, is that you can make it super, super fast. That's why I called it the Care Package Throw. It's that time of year when kids are heading off to college or off to school and you want to send something fast, but maybe you didn't plan ahead. I made this blanket in just 2 days, and I think you can too. The tricks that make it so fast are that it's worked with 3 strands of yarn at once, and then it's cut at the yarn is cut at the end of every row. So at the beginning and the end of every row, you've got built-in fringe, so no weaving in ends either, and no need to apply a border. The stitch itself is very simple, and it's just 8 rows, and then change colors, and then 8 rows and change colors, and 8 rows and change colors. I thought that these colors were very beautiful together, but of course you can pick school colors or colors that mean something to your family, whatever you like. And then the last row is just like all the other rows, cut the yarn and done. So let's go ahead and make the stitch pattern together. Okay, now as I mentioned, one of the keys to making the Care Package Throw so quickly is to work 3 strands all held together at once, all held and worked together as 1 strand of yarn. Now, when I wrote this pattern, I wanted to use 2 strands of one color and 1 strand of another color at all times. So, if you want to, you can pull from both ends of one strand, or both ends of one skein, I should say, and just one end of the next skein, or set it up however works best for you. That's what I like to do. So, to work from both ends of a skein, I go ahead and remove the label. Sometimes with Love, they've got one of the ends tucked right in there in the label, and that's no big deal. Just pull it right out, set the label aside. And then I know this is the strand that's coming from the outside of the ball, or the skein, right there. So then I can look in the ends, and sometimes it's sticking out a little bit, and sometimes it isn't. But I can find, hopefully, that center. And sometimes, oh, I got lucky. There it is. Sometimes you end up pulling out a little extra, but you can just wind that up and use it as you go. So I'm going to pre-pull out a little bit of this end. Got just a little bit of the yarn stuff there. There we go. And then I will match up that end with the other end that's coming from the outside and set those down here for a minute. I just want to point out also I've put down a little bit of my tape. We'll be using that here in just a moment. And then for the other skein, I'm just going to go ahead and pull from the center. Got a little bit of the yarn from inside there too, but again, not a big deal. Usually a little bit comes out, and then as you work it away, it all flows out pretty darn well until you get right to the end. So once you've got all 3 yarns lined up together and you've pulled some up and got it all arranged, then it's time to begin the actual crocheting. I'm going to start by measuring out 6 inches here before I make my first slip knot. That 6 inches will be the trim later, and usually I like to go just a little bit over and trim it up nicely when I'm all done, but you can go ahead and try and get it exact right as you go if you like, or trim it up afterwards. It's up to you. Then I'm going to begin with my chain. The Care Package Throw begins with a chain of 71, or any multiple of 2 plus 1 if you want to make it a custom size. So for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to make a small swatch. Let's start with a chain of 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Now you'll notice I'm using all 3 strands here, again, just as if they were one string. So if you drop one, you want to make sure to watch and undo that stitch and go back and pick it up. Then, after I've made my 71 or multiple of 2 plus 1 chains, I'm actually ready to cut it. This is just going to be the setup row, the chain row, and we're going to work it separately from the other rows because, like I said, we cut the yarn at the beginning and end of every row for this pattern. So this is just the setup row, but I'm going to go ahead and cut the yarn here right at about 6 inches. Where'd it go? There we are. And then I can just pull that end through and finish it off. Now, when I work my first actual row of crochet, I like to work into the back humps of those chains, but you can work under the top loops if you prefer. I do think that it's a good idea to work into the back humps for this one though, since we're not going to work a finished edging. This will become the finished edge of your blanket and it just looks that much nicer. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up my yarn again. There we go. And I want to make sure that I'm working back the other direction as I worked into this chain. So I'll set that down here and pull up some more yarn. It can be a good idea to pre-pull, especially the one if you're pulling from both ends, and get some yarn ready here before you begin crocheting. There we are. And then again, I just want to make sure my ends are lined up and that I leave at least 6 inches there before I make my next slip knot. And row 1 and every row of this pattern begins with a standing half double crochet. Let me just double check there, make sure I've got at least 6 inches. Looks like that one's just a little bit short, so I'm going to go ahead and move my slip knot up just a little bit here. That's why I like to use this tape. It's just a little bit easier than breaking out the tape measure every time, because once you start making this, there we go, plenty of length. Once you start making this blanket, it really does go pretty darn quickly. So to begin our standing half double crochet, like I said, I've got my slip knot on the hook. I yarn over, and I'm going to go right into the first chain. And like I said, I like to work in the back hump. It might be just a little bit more fiddly, but you just want to take your time and make sure you get under all 3 loops. There we are. Then you can pull up your loop, yarn over, and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. And that's a standing half double crochet. After that, we double crochet in the next chain. Luckily, there's only this one row that we have to actually work into chains for this pattern, so that part is pretty nice. Just getting this row set up can take a little bit of time. After we've made our double crochet, then we chain 1 and begin the repeat that will take us almost all the way across the rest of this row. We're going to go back into the same chain that we just worked into as for a double crochet, but then we're going to stop when there are 2 loops left on the hook. Then we yarn over, skip the next chain, and pull this out of the way here, skip the next chain, go into chain after that, start our double crochet, and then when we've got 3 loops left on the hook, we yarn over and pull through all 3. So basically just a double crochet decrease, but the unique things about this one are that you're going to go into the same stitch as the previous stitch for the first leg, skip the chain in the middle, and then finish off in the chain after that. So let me pull the yarns out a little bit here so we can make another one. We chain 1, always want to have a chain 1 in between, yarn over, go back into the same chain as the previous stitch there, stop when you've got 2 loops left on the hook, pull up just a little more yarn here. That is one thing about these quick patterns. When you make them this fast, you go through the yarn pretty quickly too. Then I can yarn over, skip the next chain, and go in the chain after that. There we are, and finish off that one. Chain 1 again, pull the yarn out smooth, yarn over, go into the previous chain, stop with 2 loops left on the hook, yarn over, skip the next chain, and go into the chain after that. You can see as you get going here, it can get pretty speedy. Chain 1 again, pop a little bit more yarn here, there we are, and then yarn over, go back into that same chain, stop with 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, skip the next one, and go into the chain after that, and finish off our double crochet 2 together. Now, there's only 1 chain left, so I know I'm at the end of my row. So what I need to do now is chain 1 again, and then just work a double crochet back in that same stitch, Go ahead and finish that one, and then work a half double crochet in that very last chain. Oops, I didn't get all 3 loops on the hook there. There we go. And pull up just a little bit more yarn there so I can finish my stitch. And then it's time to cut our fringe again. So I'm going to lay it down, make sure I've got at least 6 inches. Trim it off and pull that end through. And that's it for row 1. Now, I'm going to flip it over to work back the other way, and I'm going to make row 2 with you. And starting in row 2, all the rows of the rest of this pattern are exactly the same. So when I've got my 3 ends matched up here, I'll measure out I'm actually going to pre-pull some yarn here. There we go. Measure out at least 6 inches and make my slip knot on the hook again. There we are. Double check, make sure I've got enough for fringe. Yep, we're good there. So I'm going to make another standing half double crochet, but at this point I'm going to skip that last half double crochet I made and just work it into the first double crochet. So right into the top of that actually the last double crochet that you made in the previous row, the first one of the row, as we come to work back the other direction. So I've got my half double crochet there, and then I'm going to work a double crochet right into that chain space. And then I'm going to begin my repeat for these rows. We chain 1, and then we're going to double crochet 2 together again, but we're just going to go into the chain spaces. So right over the top of the previous double crochet 2 together. So that's the first leg, jump all the way over here to this next chain 1 space. For the second leg, running out of yarn again. There we are. Pull that up nice and high there, and finish off the stitch. Then we just keep doing that across, chain 1, and then go into the same chain 1 space as the previous one finished off in. Pull through 2, yarn over, go to the next chain 1 space, and work right into there. There we are. Now I'm just going to take a minute and pull up some more yarn, and then we'll finish off this row together. Okay, I think I've pulled up enough yarn to finish off our row here. So I'm going to chain 1, and then work my double crochet 2 together, go into the same chain 1 space as the previous one, stop with 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, go to the next chain 1 space, and then pull through all 3 to finish. Chain 1 again, go back into that same chain 1 space, yarn over, go to the next chain 1 space, and that's it. Now, I can see again that I have reached the end of this row. I had just worked into that last chain 1 space. So at this point, I'm going to chain 1 again. Oops, I dropped one of those loops. Let me undo that. There we go. Chain 1, go back into that last chain 1 space for a double crochet, and then just worked a half double crochet into that last double crochet. Again, I'm going to skip the half double crochet that we started the previous row with. Those just hang out on the end, holding our fringe basically. So I've got my half double crochet made in the last stitch. I'm going to make sure and measure my fringe again, and then pull right on through to finish. Now, like I said, every row after this is exactly the same. Half double crochet in that first double crochet, then double crochet right in that first chain space, then chain 1 and begin your decreases, only working into those chain 1 spaces. Now, by working into the chain 1 spaces primarily, cutting your fringe and holding 3 strands together, like I said, this blanket goes super duper fast. Let's take one more look at the finished blanket. Okay, and here we have the finished care package throw again. You can see I've got my fringe here on the end, and I started with 2 strands of white and 1 strand of the pewter, and then worked up here. We've got 1 strand of the pewter with 2 strands of true blue. And again, this is 8 rows of those double crochet 2 together stitches, and then another 8 rows here in 1 strand of pewter and 2 strands of jadeite. And then I used 1 strand of pewter and 2 strands of daffodil. And then for the red, it was 1 strand of pewter and 2 strands of hollyberry. And then I did another 8 rows with the white and the gray again. And I just thought that was really beautiful together. But like I said, you could use any colors you like. Favorite colors, school colors, whatever it works for you or whatever you've got in your stash. Since you cut the yarn at the beginning and end of every row of this blanket, it's also a great stash buster. If you're like me, you've got tons of red heart with love, and you can really have some fun mixing and matching your colors and making the care package throw. I hope this video has helped you make your own care package throw for someone special. If you liked this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and let us know what you think in the comments. And don't forget to go to the link in the description for the written pattern, right and left-handed tutorials, and links to all the supplies you need. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.